What's up everybody? In today's video, I'm going to be giving you the top 5 most underrated attackers in Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. With that out of the way, let's get straight into the video. Coming into my number 5 spot is going to be Flores. Flores is an amazing operator, and if you're really any good at the game, I'd say like Emerald and above, you know that Flores is very good, but if we actually take a look at his pick rate, it's very, very low. People underestimate Flores because they want to get walls open or they want to get kills, and Flores is more of a flex operator that doesn't really fit in the top 2 most common play styles, which is hard breacher or getting kills like I just said, right? So he's more of an unorthodox kind of playstyle. He's a flex operator, and overall there's not really like a certain type of player you have to be able to play Flores. Like I said, he's very flexible, and most people don't play the game or think about the game like that. But I mean, think about his gadget, right? You have 4 explosive drones, so that's the equivalent of being able to take out 4 deployable shields, or like the deployable shield on site and all 3 Melusi gadgets, or all of the barbed wire, a Melusi gadget, a deployable shield, and another deployable shield. All of that with one operator is absolutely insane. Now I will say Mute is very good in this meta just because of how strong Dokkaebi and Lion are, and Mute counters them, so you might see a lot of Mute play, but if you know they don't have a Mute because of attacker repick, you can just switch to Flores and it's not an issue. The most common map that you should be trying to abuse Flores on the most to try to get to actually learn him is Oregon. Oregon is a great Flores map because there's always a guaranteed deployable shield, or even 2 for that matter, on every single site. There's always barbed wire, and there's always Melusis, especially in the higher elo, because of how close quarters the map is and how cramped each doorway and wall is to be able to get opened, right? Everything is really high tension. That's why new players hate Oregon and really, really good players love Oregon, right? Flores, an amazing operator, extremely underrated. The pure amount of destruction that he brings is very good, and for solo queue he's good because he's very easy to play. Going into his loadout, one of the reasons that he's very easy to play is because he has the AR-33. This is a very easy to control AR. It's the AR that comes on Thatcher, if you didn't know, with 41 damage, 25 bullets, 749 fire rate, and almost little to no recoil. It also has the 1.5 times scope on it, and because you can put flash hider on or vertical grip on, again, no recoil at all, right? So a very good gun, very easy gun to learn, which just makes Flores easier to play. He also has the GSH-18 with 44 damage and 18 bullets. This pistol's an absolute monster, and then he also has flash grenades or claymores. If you're solo queuing, you know no one's gonna watch your flanks. Claymores are great, and then if you're just solo queuing and you want to get kills, flashes are even better, right? So overall, like, very easy to learn loadout, very new player friendly, and I definitely recommend if you want to rank up and you want to start getting a lot of utility off very, very easily, I definitely recommend you pick up Flores. Coming into my number 4 spot is going to be Capitao. Capitao overall is a well-rounded operator. If I was making a tier list, most people would put Capitao in like the B tier just because he doesn't provide that much value. It's not that he's a bad operator, it's just that he's a bit underwhelming in times when you can bring other operators that do more for more of a payout, right? But I will say there are certain maps and certain sites where Capitao can be completely game-changing. I'll give you a great example. On Border, you can use Capitao smokes to plant, and you can make one-way smokes with him that defenders run into and die because you can actually stick his smokes on the roof and the smokes will stick there, right? So you can make one-way smokes. If you've played Valorant, you know about one-way smokes. It's essentially a smoke that if defenders walk into, they can't say anything because they're in a smoke, but you can see their legs. Just, you know, you can shoot these smokes really high. You get one-way smokes. You also have fire bolts to flush defenders out of really like high-pressure situations. So just for that alone, he provides some inherent value. He also has a Gon 6, right? And with the extended barrel on his gun, it's very powerful. It's a very easy to control gun. It has a 1.5 times scope on it, right? So very good weapon selection, and he has hard breaching charges. So there's maps like Rafters and Clubhouse where you can open up the breach instead of a Habana doing it on the garage walls, and then you can clear out Rafters with your fire bolts, and then you can use your smokes to plant. So you can kind of like solo take Rafters with Capitao. But Capitao's really only good if you have an entire strategy set up with him, and if you have teams that can coordinate with him, right? Because again, there are better operators that can do more soloistically than Capitao can, but if you have a team behind it, or you have your own play that you know is going to work, then I would recommend picking Capitao, because he's one of those operators that you just play if you have a certain strat in mind. That being said, if you do have a strat in mind, he is amazing, and that's why I'm putting him on this list in the first place. Coming into my number 3 spot is going to be Blitz. Now, this may surprise a lot of you because you either say that Blitz is ass or you say that Blitz is really, really good for ranked. There's kind of no in between for players that play Rainbow Six Siege, but Blitz is actually very good for solo queue ranked, and I'll tell you why. Every time that I've faced a cheater, and a cheater that I am unable to beat for that matter, it's usually somebody that's playing Blitz, because Blitz is very hard to counter if it's a good Blitz player due to the fact that they can just run at you and blind you, right? So it's a very good operator if you want to take space fast, if you want to run at people. If you're a good shield player in general, he can be very, very powerful. The shield operator that I'm scared of most in this entire game is Blitz, hands down, because if he's in the hands of a good blitz player, it is absolutely frightening. I get actual anxiety when I see a blitz running at me and I know the blitz is good. Like, it's actually crazy because they can take so much space, right? You can't just shoot him in the feet because then he just ducks. You can try to shoot him in the shoulder, but then he's just gonna run at you and flash you. You can't just run away from him because he just puts his gun out and then he shoots you, right? So you have to learn how to actually counter blitz, and if you want to learn how to counter blitz, you kind of have to know how to play blitz. That being said, I'm gonna stop meat riding him for a second and tell you why he's a bit underrated. His pick rate is very, very low. His win rate typically is also pretty low because most people don't know how to play him, and he's oversaturated in low elo, and people just tank his win rate because they don't know how to play him, right? But again, if you know how to play blitz, he's very, very scary. I could tell you how to play blitz in a little short paragraph type of way, because I could make an entire operator guide on this guy, honestly. Blitz is absolutely insane. I will say, if you don't know how to play him, or maybe you're just getting used to him, he is kind of a waste of a pick for your team, because you could bring somebody with more utility and with an actual gun to get yourself in gunfights with. But there are certain sites like Oregon Basement, right, where you can run at people with a blitz shield, and you can run at the smoke player and completely disassemble their entire strat just because you're playing blitz. So there are certain strats you can do. You can also roam clear with blitz. If you have a person behind you, you can run through every single room, and then if you find a roamer, you can just flash him and you and your teammate can just gang up on him. Very, very easy to do. And if you want to play fast-paced and you also want to be kind of useless to your team, a good blitz player can do all of this, and most people don't know how to counter him. I'm in diamond elo, and most people don't know how to counter a blitz. Diamond PC elo, right? So he's actually like kind of a good operator, especially for ranked, and if you have a strat in mind as well. So I definitely recommend you pick him up, if not anybody else on this list. With that being said, let's go into my number 2 spot. Coming into my number 2 spot is going to be Glass. Now, if you're a seasoned player or you're a bit new to the game even, you might be flaming the fuck out of me right now in your head for putting Glass and Blitz in the same top 5 video, but hear me out, okay? Glass is a little bit more valued, especially in this meta, due to the fact that there's only 4 people in the game right now that have frag grenades. There's Sledge, Glass, Yana, and Knock. Those are the 4 people that have frag grenades. Now, that makes frag grenades extremely, extremely valuable. And I know what you're gonna say, but if you're playing Glass, you should bring smoke grenades. That's not necessarily the truth, especially because a lot of people are defaulting to Warden nowadays, which is gonna be talked about in my top 5 underrated defenders video, by the way. You should go click that. But like, you know, people can see through smokes. Smoke plants aren't that common anymore because you can't really get the bomb down in this meta, because it's kind of a gun skill meta. You just run around and shoot people, right? So bombs aren't getting planted as much. And if they're good, they're just not gonna peek your smoke, right? So you're kind of just using a smoke grenade, sitting there for 30 seconds, not seeing anybody, and then you're just wasting grenades when you could have just brought frag grenades and just been a better Glass player, right? Because you don't need smoke to get kills. You can easily just shoot people without the smokes if you're good. So I definitely recommend you bring the frag grenades over this. That being said, now he's also a 3-speed, which is pretty good, because a lot of the times if you're sitting outside the map as Glass and that's all you're doing, you're gonna be pretty useless. But now you have the ability to run around to different sides of the maps and put pressure very quickly, and you're able to be a fragger and kind of play like you would play Ash with Glass, which is what he needed, right? I think it's honestly a buff to him. And then he also, if that wasn't enough for you, has the Bearing 9. This is a automatic gun for a sniper, which is really, really good. It's what Cali has. It's what makes Cali playable, and they finally had the nerf to give it to Glass. So I definitely think he's a bit underrated. If you want to play in a fraggish way, you just want to have fun, but you also want to bring a little bit of utility with you, i.e. his frag grenades, then I definitely recommend you pick Glass up. He's definitely underrated, and in my tier list and other R6 YouTuber tier list, most people are putting him like B tier, right? Not C tier or F tier, right? They're putting him in B tier because he has those frag grenades. He's a 3-speed now. He has the Bearing 9, so he is actually kind of playable now if you want to play in a fraggish sort of way. Now, coming into my number 1 spot, which is going to make some people very angry at me, is going to be Ying. Ying's not underrated. I play Ying all the time. People play Ying all the time in my elo. Shut up. Please, shut up. Okay, let me just delve into the arguments before we even have them in the comments section. Okay, for one, look at Ying's pick rate. One of the lowest on attack, right? Always has been. For 2, look at her win rate. Not that high either, which makes people who are seasoned at the game, i.e. people that actually check the win rates, not want to play her even more. Also, we're not in the plant meta. If you want to play Ying, you're probably going to be rushing in with your Candelas, smoking off all the angles, and then having your teammates plant while you go in and you keep Yinging and you keep shooting. That's usually the strat people do with her. Because of that, people don't play her in this meta because it's not a plant meta, like I've been telling you. But the reason I say she's underrated, even though it's not her meta, is because sure, if you're playing her in the way that I just outlined for you, she's not good. But that's not the right way to play her, and I'll tell you why. She is the exact same way in how you play her, of course, that Lion is. They're both meant to start pushes. If you play Valorant, I'll give you another example. If you play Valorant, she is what's known as an initiator, right? If there was like an initiator role, she would be it. Lion would also be an initiator because you use both of their gadgets to initiate fights. That being said, how do you do this with Ying, right? Ying is just meant to flash people. No, Ying is not meant to flash people. If you throw a Ying Candela into sight, the enemies aren't just gonna stare at it, right? This isn't gold. What they're gonna do is they're gonna run away, right? So you can use the information of knowing where they're running to, or you can use just the action of them running away or proning or being blinded to then hop in and create space for your team, right? The whole idea on Ying is to create space. Not only do you have one of these, but you have 4. So you have 4 opportunities to create space and start pushes for your team, make defenders run away, give you a second of hesitation in their heads to be able to start an entire push. If you use Ying to coordinate with your team to start pushes, like you will use a Lion Scan, for example, in really high elo, then she can actually be very good. If you don't believe me, look at the Pro League bans. If you look at Dark Zero, they use Ying fluently. Their team captain, Canadian, is one of the best Ying players in the entire world. He uses her Candelas, or he uses their scans one at a time to start individual pushes. Use her to create pushes, not just to flash players, and you will get a lot of value out of her. Not only that, but she has a really easy to control gun. She has hard breaching charges too if you don't want to bring smokes. So overall, her utility is not bad either. Be open-minded when I'm telling you about Ying. Actually look up some Ying guides, look at Pro League players and how they play Ying, look at her ban rates in Pro League if you don't believe me on that, and I'm sure you will start to understand why, and you'll start to win games if you play her. With that out of the way, that is pretty much it for the entire video. If you like this video, sub to the channel down below. I post 4 times a week on this channel, educational Siege content, tips and tricks just like this. If you like the video, like it. My name is Alka, and I will see y'all in the next video. Later.